Hi, my name's Si Hulbert. Welcome to my studio in Chislehurst in Kent. Today I'll be chatting to you about a track I wrote with Stealth called Don't Make Me Choose. Don't make me choose, unless you're willing to lose. Don't make me choose, 'cause you know I cut you loose. Don't make me choose, I know what I must do. Don't make me choose. This is a track that I wrote with an artist called Stealth and Paul Harris at Dirty Vegas. It's called Don't Make Me Choose. And we basically did this in a day, so we were kind of under time pressure to make it sound as good as possible, but we all had some very good ideas. Stealth is an amazing artist. You need to check him out on Spotify. Very kind of organic, guitar driven stuff, kind of a lot of feeling, a lot of atmosphere to it. So we wanted to try and get a track like that in the day that we had, and we're looking at this track from a sync perspective and all sorts. So we're trying to tick a lot of boxes with it, and yeah, this is what we made. The reason we're looking from a sync point of view as well was music like this can be used on a lot of things. It can be used on films. It can be used on trailers. You can, strip the vocals out, just have the track playing. So we wanted something gritty that had potential to be used. It's a current sound, and advertisers and films tend to kind of favour stuff like this. It can be used in like cinema trailers and what have you. So we're basically trying to just maximise the commercial aspect of it as well as just writing a good song. When we started this track, we had a day. So what we normally do, we kind of have a little chat about sort of rough direction. So we really, because we're all on the same page, we established the direction really, really quickly. Stealth is a good guitar player as well. He's a good all-round musician. So basically just picked up an acoustic guitar and we started bashing around ideas. I play guitar, Stealth plays guitar, and we came up with a kind of a little a riff, something that we could build a track around, and we wanted to keep it very kind of rock and indie, and obviously by the nature of that it's riff based, and we wanted to make sure everything worked. So we started with a guitar. So if we look at the session here, so this is the guitar riff that we started with. So you can hear that. So basically that's what we started with. And we played a few different versions and then settled on that. And because I wanted to kind of keep it really organic and give it a live feel, basically I just picked up the condenser mic and literally held it over the bridge of the guitar. So you can hear in this, this has got processing on it at the moment, but you can hear him breathe, you can hear all sorts of stuff. If I play that again, you hear the little noise in there. That was him breathing as he was playing it. And it's not bang on the grid, this. We wanted it to sound like it was, properly played, like somebody was in the room. So basically we started with this guitar riff, which we thought sounds pretty good, and that was the basis of the whole track. So, and that pretty much revolves around, just plays all the way through the track, and we built everything around that. We then wanted to get a little bit of rhythm in there, so we knew where we were, so we had something to lock the drums to. So basically same deal, held the condenser mic over the guitar bridge and just got Stealth to literally bang the body of the guitar until we got a noise that we liked. So we got this noise. So it's literally just hitting it, but that has been cut to the grid. So we had something that we could then anchor everything else to. So both of those together sound a bit like this. So that was the basis of the acoustic guitar part, so everything else was then built around that. So the processing on the main guitar loop, this is basically, if you can see the sequence here, this is just a repeat of that. I will come to this bit. This is the chorus. I'll come to this bit in a minute. But so this is what the guitar sounded like dry. So it's well recorded, but it kind of, we wanted to just make it sound, you know, like it was sitting in a space. So the processing on that, a little bit of saturation, just to literally just give it a little bit of an edge to it. And then I put the Mondo Mod on there, which I use on a lot of stuff. It just slightly modulates the guitar. And this one, I use this a lot. This is the 33 RPM off center. So it just makes it wobble a little bit. So it sounds like a sample of a recording. It's very subtle, but you can see the modulation working there. I then put the 76 on it. Again, I think I use, literally use the preset on this. A lot of the times I will use the preset and then just tweak them, because like I said, we had a day and I need to get a rough sound very quickly. After that, I used the Maserati, the Waves Maserati, which is great. It added a lot of space around the guitar. If I punch this out, you can hear the difference. So this is it, put it in. Just gave it a space, sounded great. And then I actually put a vocal rider on it afterwards, just to make sure all the transients were kind of coming up without being too squashed. And I kind of use this on quite a lot of stuff now, because it adds. I like it. I won't probably be able to tell you the technical reasons, but it just sounds good, and I was using my ears on this one. So that's it with all the processing. So there's no sends on this. So this is literally all contained on the channel, and it's all in mono as well. So I can then, if I look at the panning on this, slightly off to the left. So again, it puts it in a very definitive space. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I will punch out all of these, all the effects processing on the guitar, so we can hear what each stage does to the guitar. So like I said, this was recorded handheld, so I was literally holding the condenser mic maybe 8 inches away from the sound hole on the guitar. So it sounds great, sounds dead though. So the first thing I did was put a bit of saturation on there with a Brainworks saturator. It's subtle, but it kind of just adds a bit of grit to the track. Again, I just used a preset on this because it's one that I found works on this kind of instrument. So that's the saturator. Next I had the Mondo Mod. Where are we? There we go. Again, I put this on to add a slight bit of modulation to make it sound like it's been taken off an old record. I punch this in. You hear the sound just wobbling very, very slightly. But what that does, it means your ear won't get used to the loop, because it will continually play, because it always sounds slightly different. After that, got the compressor, just to bring up everything that we've just done so far. Again, used the preset on this, and I undoubtedly gave it a bit of a tweak so it wasn't overloading too much. Again, so it's bringing up the kind of the slightly quieter elements. So that was then ready to go to the Maserati. And again, I think, so you can hear the difference there. It's kind of taken a lot of the bottom end out. It's made the strings zing a bit. There's reverb on there. It's just it was a nice sound. Can't remember how I arrived at that. I probably just literally just popped one up and, you know, tweaked it as I kind of went. I'll just be using my ears because we were kind of working against the clock on this. And then to make sure that everything was kind of stable, because this forms the core of the track, I put the vocal rider on. And again, got a very narrow range here. Put it on, we've got one on slow slow attack there, and just so everything was up and just like in your face. Okay, so this is with the vocal rider off, and this is with it on. You can see it's pretty much brick walled there, but I know that that level isn't going to change. So that was it, and that formed the basis of the loop. On the rhythm track, we got a very similar setup. What I did there, I imagine I actually took that this chop that you hear. That chop actually occurs at the front end of the original guitar loop. I think it's... no, it might be that one, or we might have just resampled that by itself. But what I would have done was I would have duplicated the channel, literally right click, duplicate tracks, and then would have moved that chop up there and just tweaked the sound slightly, panned it in a different direction. So it sounded like it came from the same guitar. So if we look at that, it's got very, very similar processing on it. So we've got the saturator, got the Mondo Mod, got the 76, and got the Maserati, but there's no vocal rider on that because I didn't want that to be the prominent thing. It was just there to give a tempo to the track. The idea of this, we wanted the verses to be kind of quite organic, bit floppy, sound like it could have been played, by a band. But when it got to the chorus, we needed it to be tight. So again, sticking with the guitar, I took what we played and literally popped it on another channel. Let me show this. So this is the chorus guitar, and it will sound different. Let me just isolate that, and I'll show you the processing and what was done on this. So it sounds different, but it's the same guitar. You can see there as well what I've done. I chopped it within Cubase to make sure that that was actually in time, because we needed to lock the other instruments to that, and if it sounded too floppy in the chorus, everything would sound a bit sort of machine gunny and a bit of a mess. So we actually chopped that. So you can see the markers here. So that was using the Cubase function. If I can show you what I did. So I'd have taken something like this. Oh, it's already on there, already on the hit points. Adjust the threshold so it literally captures everything. Hit create slice, and there we go. And then I'd have quantized each of these bits so it was kind of bang on the money. So that's what we did here. And then I wanted to do different processing. It'll make sense when you kind of hear the rest of the instruments. But very quickly, I took the same processing. Oh, hang on, let me just get rid of that one. I took the same processing that was on the acoustic guitar channel that I spoke about, but then I took off the vocal rider because there was some electric guitars that kind of came through here. So this just needed to sit in its own space in the chorus. So I thinned it out a little bit more. The only addition to that would have been the API EQ on there, just to bring out the top end so it kind of poked through the rest of the mix, because there's a lot of bass, a lot of big heavy drums going on at this point. So I just wanted to kind of make it peak out. But I have got some sends on this, and what I did, I put the sound shifter on there to give it a bit of bottom end. You can hear that when it comes in. So this is without. So this is it with it on. So it's just an octave down. Again, pan to mono, just gives it a bit more body. This is the sound shifter. So that's the sound shifter. Again, literally, as it comes in waves, pop it up. This is, I think I did this in mono, because then I can pan it. Have I panned this? Yeah, I've panned this one. So the acoustic guitar in the chorus is panned slightly still to the left, but not as much as the verse. And I've panned the sound shifter to the right just to give it a bit of a spread. And it's literally an octave down on there, so 12 semitones. And that's it. Just gives it a bit more bottom. Did the same thing with the guitar chops. So the chops in the verse literally copied the channel and just adjusted, let's have a look. I think I probably adjusted the fade on that. Yeah, I did. So I swapped the side that the rhythm chops were coming in, just to keep it interesting for the ear, basically. So altogether, the transition sounds a bit like this. So this is going from the verse into the chorus. So coming into the chorus now. So it was just to give a bit of a difference on there. So, and you can see that pretty much now occurs all the way through. So that's quantized and had the effects on it. Right, so we had the guitar riff. And then what I would have done on here is, I think the next thing we were looking at after we had that guitar riff established, we wanted to get some drums, basically, get some good drums. So this is the drum folder. And I think we actually started off with this big stomp. Stuck between a rock. So it's a big chunky kick. It sounds organic, got a lot of bottom end on it. Now I got, for this particular project, I actually used Splice because I found that a really good way of finding the drums that I need very, very quickly. So I think literally, so here, yeah, it's moving big stomps. So literally went up to Splice, I've got an account with them, put in what I needed, came up with a few different options, bought it, downloaded it, and that's pretty much how we built the drums on this. But it was all based around this big stompy kick. So this is the kick we got here. So it sounds nice and organic. Let me just have a look at the processing on it. So right, literally dry. We've got a bit of API just to boost the bottom end, just so it kind of gives that kind of nice subby feeling. What did we boost there? Got 40 hertz. Got what are we on? 2 dBs, 40 hertz. I also set up a parallel compression channel on this, which I've got for all of the drums. It's pre-fade as well, so I can just add a little bit of bite to that. And I use the Elisa M Presser. So if I just pull that up, there we go. Again, just used a preset on these because 9 times out of 10 they do sound great, and so just use the big drums and basically just added the parallel compression to taste. I'll see if I'll do it with and without. So let's start this without. So this is without, this is with. You can see it's just bringing it, it's a subtle thing, but it just works. And this parallel compression I'll probably be using for a lot of the other drums as well. So I'll just kind of obviously adjust it to how I think sounds good just there. So that basically forms the groove, if you can call it that. So if I play that with the guitar, you can hear how it works together. So that's the 3 elements in there. You can hear the acoustic guitars sort of playing around the beat a bit, but it sounds weighted. It's such a big drum. So then, again, we wanted to add a little bit of like a kind of like a clap, but we didn't want something as obvious as a clap. It was just a high sound, like a snare or something dull that just gave it the upbeat. So we actually took this, it's a sample from something which I can't say, but it was a drum sound that we particularly liked, and we kind of took, cut, processed, just so it added, you'll be able to hear this together. So again, it sounds organic, still sounds a little bit electronic though, and you know, it just sounds kind of quite cool. On that one, again, just a little bit of EQ to take out the bottom end. If I play that without it, you'll be able to hear what I mean. So it's got a lot of weight to it with the EQ. Again, so I wanted that to stick out. A little bit of Valhalla on there. Let me show you the Valhalla setting. Right. Again, this would have probably been a preset that I took and just tweaked, basically. So with the, this is with the Valhalla, without. See, it's quite dead. So that was basically, that formed the core of the rhythm. And again, as the this part here, this is the chorus. And again, we wanted everything in there. So I've got a mixture of samples. I'm also running some live MIDI on here. I've got addictive drums, just playing a hi-hat pattern to give it a little bit of realism. So we've got this going. And again, on that, I think I took a preset, the Led Zeppelin Big and Dirty drums. It just had the right vibe for it. And literally, there was just a crash and an open hat on this. Stylus RMX, which I use a lot, is doing shaker and tambourine. Let me show you there. So, yeah, got an orange shaker and a tambourine. Again, I don't think this has got a lot of, I've got panning on this. I've got extreme panning. Shakers over to the right, tambourines over to the left to just make it interesting. So the live elements that are running are this all together. Nope. Put the tambourine back in. Just adds a bit of interest. You can hear where the beats are going. And again, all the drums sound like this. So we've got a clap loop in here, which again, that came off of Stylus, but then I rendered it to audio, so I could tweak it a little bit more. Got the parallel compression on that, again, just to make it stick out a little bit more. Bit of studio EQ, just to give it a lift on the high end, duck out the bits I didn't want to hear. So it's kind of quite prominent in the chorus. The big stomp that's working all the way through. Clap. So basically, this is all the percussive elements in there, and I think that's pretty much it for all the choruses. So again, all of these, let's have a look. I think these were just straight samples. The clap we've spoken about, the big stomp we've spoken about. On this tambourine, this was again just a sample, but I wanted to give it a little bit more interest. So on there we've got API again, just giving it a massive boost on the top end, and a bit of oral exciter on it. Again, just it sounded good. It just needed something to make it cut through. So that is all the drums. Right, so after we kind of like established the guitars and where they were going and kind of like how the drums were sounding, the next thing we would obviously have concentrated on, and we'd have kind of have done this as well whilst we were playing the guitar riff, was just coming up with like melody ideas. So we've got the vocals. Now, Stealth is a very fast, very good writer as well. So with 3 of us in here, we're able to get this kind of lyric pretty quickly, establish the story, wanted it to be a little bit gritty. We had the, you know, the melody ideas came very, very quickly, as they do when you've kind of got a riff. So we would have literally have, I'd have given Stealth like a handheld condenser. We'd have run through a few ideas, settled on the right melodies, and then looked at lyric ideas. We would have then lyric the track, and then probably done a rough pass on a handheld, and then I'd have put him up on the big mic to record the whole thing. Now, what we would normally do with a track like this is record it from start to finish in sequence, because we wanted it to sort of build and sound quite natural. So this is the lead vocal. I'll play it to you without any processing on it.
Don't make me choose unless you're willing to lose. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, and you put me here, lying in a...
So you can hear it's got a great tone to his vocal anyway. When I recorded that, obviously we did it with the reflection filter and the Kiwi Blue mic, did it on the headphones. But there was no processing on this when it went in. It literally went into the Apogee and then straight into Cubase. Because we wanted to, the effects on this vocal came afterwards, once I kind of knew the overall sound. So if you have a look at this, there's no tuning on it at all. He doesn't really need it, and also we just wanted it to, you know, to keep it quite real sounding. So we'd have started with the vocals, and he would have recorded over the drums and the guitar. See, it's very, very quiet there without the processing on it. So from a processing point of view, if we kind of skip forward to like after all this was written, I knew that I kind of wanted that sort of amped up, kind of really aggressive sound. So again, it's very simple. Used a debreather on there because it was kind of quite a harsh setting. And normally I'd probably go through and hand cut out all the breaths, but for the sake of sort of time and it sounding good, put the debreather on there, which literally just takes out all the and all the noises in between without killing the character of the sound. Then got a little bit of SSL channel on there. Again, a setting that I use a lot and tweak is the Chris Lordage rock voice, because again, suited his voice really good. 76 on the top. I think this is the in your face setting, which again I use on loads of stuff, just seems to work. Would have tweaked the input and the output to suit. And then the majority of the character on this comes from the Isotope Nectar, which again used a preset on this because this was pretty much the sound that we wanted. It's called Amped Up. Took out a lot of the bits we didn't need, like the de-esser, would have affected the delay and the effects to make it sound, you know, how I want it to sound. So if we do it with, I can turn these on in sequence so you can see what they do. Right, so the first thing is the debreather. You can see that working already. So every time this goes down, it's taking out the breaths. It also gives quite an aggressive sound to it by itself, because everything sounds quite snatched. Then put the SSL channel on there, so you can hear that instantly. It's kind of quite gritty, cuts above the other stuff. Again, they're in your face on the 76, just to bring everything really up to the front. You can see that's working hard, but it just sounds really good. And then we put the Amped Up on, and this is when it all sounds together. Lying in a bed that you've made. Let me be sincere if it so it instantly gives it a space. Sounds great. Sounds a bit old school.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place.
It just sounds aggressive.
Lying in a bed that you've made.
Oh, and the other important thing on there, got Valhalla on there, and also got some parallel compression on the vocal. I was wondering why that sounded quite low. So using the Empressor again, I just used again a preset Transient Enhance on pre-fade, just so it brings up the body of the vocal, but it isn't being affected by the other stuff on there. So let's listen to that.
Let me be sincere, if it came to it,
So that's with the parallel compression. This is without. You'll hear the difference.
Let me be sincere, if it came
It just drops in level. It just adds to the. It just enables, the transients to literally come through.
Came to it, I must admit, it's you who's going down. And
I think on that I've just got a short reverb from the Valhalla. Yeah, actually it's the same reverb that the guitar percussive noise is on, again to give it, so it sounds like it's been sung in the same room basically. So that's what it sounds like.
Relationship, it don't mean shit when it all comes crashing down. Stuck between a rock.
So the only other element in that at the moment is the effects channel. Now I've got record crackle running all the way through this again just to add to the grit. So this literally runs all the way through. Right, so we would have had that, we would have come up with the chorus idea, we would have recorded the chorus vocals, and then our job would be to kind of build it. For this, if we look at the, so you can see we haven't got a lot, it's everything we wanted to keep kind of real guitars. So we've got what sounds like a real bass in here. That was actually a contact bass. I don't know if I've still got this. Let's just have a look. Yeah. So literally just using the Rickenbacker bass. I don't know if I've still got the setting. Yeah, cruncher. So I would have played this in MIDI and then recorded the audio back, because what I've found with this, and I don't know if it's particular to this bass sound, there is a slight delay on the MIDI when you lock it, and it isn't always in time. So when I bounce this to audio, it means I can literally bang it on the grid. So this would have been contact bass. Very little processing on that. Again, got the bass rider just to bring all the levels up. There's no compression on this. It didn't need it, because I think when I programmed it as MIDI, I made sure all the velocities were pretty much the same. And then we got a bit of R bass on it as well, just to, again, a bit of a boost at 80, just to bring out the bottom end. So if I play you that bit of audio without these, you can hear it with. So that's just dry. Well, as dry as it gets. Bass rider, you can instantly hear the levels come up. Put the Renaissance R bass on, you can feel the bottom end coming in there. So this is the chorus. So this is with the drums, bass. So you can hear the bass is actually playing in unison with the acoustic guitar, which makes everything sound bigger. So it's basically playing exactly the same riff. The only other addition we've got on there at this stage is this little vocal sample that I liked, which made it sound a little bit more contemporary. So this sound is just going along in the background. Which was just, let me open up, this was the sample it came from. That was it. And I like the sound of that, and it was in the right key. So we just added that on the, obviously on the quarter note, just coming all the way through. The only bit of additional processing I've got on that is, again, the Mondo Mod, just to make it sound less static. So same deal, 33 RPM, just modulating slightly so the pitch is changing. So that's what we had for the chorus. And we wanted to put some authentic sounding electric guitars on. Now obviously we're in the studio, we're doing it on Cubase, mainly due to time, to all sorts of other things. When you're recording like this, you've got to kind of get the best sound you can. And what I did, we actually just took I've got a little Thunder West Tone electric guitar, DI'd it straight into the Apogee, and we basically played the riff. So we were copying the acoustic guitar riff. This is what it sounds like without anything on it. So there's two guitars on this, one playing left, one playing right, one playing a low octave, one playing a high octave, just so you get that space. So this is the first guitar. You can hear it's got a nice little buzz on there, but this was literally just DI'd. We probably did maybe a dozen takes of this, trying to get it as tight as we could. I didn't want to quantize this to the grid. It didn't need it to sound floppy. So basically, that's what we got here. So the first thing I did, I knew I wanted it to have its own space. So literally gone hard left on this. So that's coming from right over there. So at the moment, everything's kind of pretty much like this. The chorus comes and it kind of just opens everything out. Processing wise, this is the sound with everything in, and I'll show you what everything does. So that's a real kind of crunchy sound on there. Right, so the first thing first, we've got the first thing I put on there was a gate, because there was a lot of kind of string buzz and fret noise and all this kind of stuff that I wanted to, even though we're DIing, it kind of almost accentuates that. So you can see it's opening and closing there. And I always use the stock Steinberg gate, because I just think it works. It does it really well. You can sidechain it if you need to, and it's simple, and I just think it works really, really well. So after the gate, I've got a 76 here. Again, I've just used a preset, Start Me Up. It's not as aggressive. It's just ironing out a lot of the peaks, just getting everything kind of sitting at a nice level. It's still working hard. Then after that, we've got the guitar amp mono. Now I tend to use either this or amplitude free, because I just think they sound really good. This just happened to be right for the sound I was after. Again, I would have probably come up to, what have we got? Oh, stealth heavy guitar. I would have probably gone through a few presets and seen which sounded roughly right, and then just affect it accordingly. So this is without the guitar. Okay, and this is with. Okay, it sounds really buzzy. We kind of wanted that Arctic Monkeys kind of like nasty, jangly, aggressive sound. But you can hear there as well. Obviously, we've got a lot of level on this. You can hear the hiss. After this, I put the 1176 on, again, to just bring that sound up even more. So this is without. This is with. Again, it just makes it more aggressive and in your face. But you can hear the amount of hiss now coming off the amp, coming off everything. So the last in the chain is again the Steinberg gate. That makes it sound nice when it isn't playing, basically. So, and it's got a really fast attack on it, so it literally won't take anything off the front. Because without, there's just hiss all over the place. So that's that guitar. Got a sound shifter on this as well, which I forgot to mention. So without, with, just gives it a nice low sort of rumble. And I think the sound shifter, what have we got there? Yeah, so again, just an octave down, fader slightly over to the right. That guitar's playing to the left, so that's playing over there, and you've got an octave down of that playing over there, so it just fills out the spectrum a bit. and then we have an octave up playing in unison again, so these are all playing exactly the same notes. We've got this guitar. So we've gone for a slightly different sound on there. It'll be the same processing. I think as well, because we were recording this so quickly, that was recorded without doing a retune, because when you're bashing stuff like that, the strings go out really quickly. So in this instance, I've actually got a waves tuner over it, just to try and pull it in. So we're playing, the whole song's in D minor, so those are my settings there. You can see it working. And it still sounds a little bit wobbly, but again, we really kind of, that was the sound I was after. So without the processing, this is what the guitar sounds like. Quite meek. They're very old strings on the guitar as well, so they needed a bit of work to kind of bring it up. Okay, that's all we've got time for now, but make sure you join us for part 2.